Thank you, Peter. So I mentioned that we are celebrating the feast day of Mary Magdalene today, but not talking about her specifically. Rather, I'd like to offer her as an example of a powerful person in history with a wisdom message about love who was badly treated by the world. And over the centuries, there have been many such cases of powerful people, often women, I have to say, not entirely, but often. And we keep running into them. The meditation group a few weeks ago read about Hypatia in Alexandria in the 4th century, who was apparently, like the Plato of Egypt. She was a philosopher and a mathematician and an astronomer and had disciples and wrote all this stuff, and none of which has survived. And she was essentially murdered by a fanatic Christian crowd because she didn't toe the line to the dogma. And there are many, there's a long list. Mary Magdalene, she was only, like libeled for 1,500 years. That she lived a nice long life, but her story didn't get told accurately. And it's a good lesson that the history that we read and the history that we learn and teach isn't necessarily the story of what happened. It's the story of what the winners want to tell us happened. So you always have to be a little bit skeptical, and you always have to do some of your own work. But these people who were essentially persecuted for preaching essentially what we talk about in here, right? They are reminders of the importance for each of us of claiming our own voice and our own power and telling our own story, especially in a safe place like this where you have a receptive audience. It's an enormous privilege that a lot of people historically didn't have. So our summer sermon series on encounters with the sacred is an invitation to you to stand up here some Sunday morning and share your story. So Marilyn's got the calendar on the office door. You pick a blank Sunday, put your name down, and do it. It's a wonderful exercise. So the story I want to share this morning, I have actually preached about before, but it was, the date on the sermon says 2009. So I apologize to all the people who actually heard it before, and good for you if you remember it. Yeah, so I figured I was safe on that score. So it really, the incident happened 15 years ago, but it remains one of the key moments of my life. It's very much like what Mary Oliver said in that paragraph about her seizure of happiness that just came over her. She said, "It was a moment I have never forgotten, and upon which I have based many decisions in the years since." You can't always tell when those kind of moments are going to come, but they impact your life. So this story begins about 16 years ago, when I headed into a time of internal agitation. I was not happy. And I couldn't have told you why. I think it had actually been building for some time, but I managed to avoid thinking about it. I was going to school, church, families, all this stuff going on. Later. You can only hold the lid on that kind of stuff for so long. And nothing I did to talk myself out of it seemed to work. I journaled, oh my God, I filled up all kinds of pages, but every single, normally that is hugely therapeutic for me, but I just kept writing the same stuff, and it always ended with, why do I feel like this? What's the matter with me? The more I couldn't pinpoint it, the more the agitation kept coming to the surface. I started to snap at people. I yelled at my mother. I yelled at my spiritual director, for heaven's sakes. I mean, really, it was kind of ugly. I was a mess. I was alternately angry and depressed, and I kept trying to think up solutions. Well, if I just do such and such, I'll feel better. Doesn't work. Christmas that year was awful. For the first time ever, I couldn't even think of anything I wanted to write in a Christmas letter, so I just didn't send Christmas cards. Like, you know, you get a pass every once in a while. It was like a dark night of the soul, except it went on for months. And then one day, the universe sent me a clue in the form of a song. It was the first Sunday in February, and I'd gone to the memorial service over in Berkeley for Michael Mendiola, who was a wonderful PSR ethics professor, and really one of the best parts of seminary for me. Cancer took him way too young. So I'm sitting there in the big sanctuary at First Congregational in Berkeley, and someone sings the song, Safety Harbor. And by the end, most of the congregation is sniffling, you know. But it's a memorial service. You kind of expect that when you sing that kind of a song. But I really liked the words, and I thought, oh, I could sing this at church. So I went home, and I downloaded it from iTunes, and I ordered the music so I could work on it in my voice lesson. There was only one problem. Every time I played this song, it made me cry. And I'm not talking just, you know, tearing up. I'm talking tears, right? Well, after a couple of weeks, it occurred to me this is probably not about Michael. This is way over. What's going on? One morning, I woke up and realized I had been hearing the song in my dream. It's like, will you pay attention? Because involuntary tears for me are a huge clue. Whenever they happen, it's like my body is trying to tell me something's going on here that has meaning for you. Pay attention. So I said, all right. And I sat down deliberately to watch myself react to the song. It's not the whole song. It's very particular words that start the waterworks. Okay. So I watched myself react, and it seemed to hinge on the words home and safe. Big clue. Okay, which home? Childhood? Was I somehow still mad at my parents for getting divorced 50 years ago and making it impossible for me to go home? Oh God, I've gone over that ground so many times, I'm done with that topic, okay? Was it present home? I got a few nits, but nothing worthy of this kind of angst. Well, if it wasn't the past and it wasn't the present, then it must be the future. All of a sudden, it hit me. As I looked over those months of journal entries, I could clearly see Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of dealing with grief. There was denial, anger, bargaining, and depression. And I hadn't quite gotten to acceptance yet. But when she made that famous list, she was trying to articulate the stages that people go through in facing their own mortality. So was all this agitation about my needing to look squarely at the fact that I am going to die? And, you know, I didn't have any terrible illness. There was no reason for me to be focused on that topic. But I can only tell you when I flat out asked myself, is this what's going on? The answer was yes. It feels different the first time you have a gut level reaction for yourself to the fact that you are going to die. We have all known this with our heads since we were little kids. Since the first time you had to flush a goldfish down the toilet, you know that all living things die. That's the nature That's the cycle of life. And I've walked with others to the edge of their transition, and I've been with my father and sister when they took their last breaths, but it was always their experience, not mine. Mine was coming eventually, and clearly a part of me was very upset about that, frightened of it. But once a fear is identified, I've found that the very best way to deal with it is just head on. Just look it in the eye. And since I'm obviously not going to do a dry run on this particular fear, the next best thing was to think it through, to do a thought experiment. I decided to imagine my own death. So I don't have a lot of guides for this, right? Except that enough people have written about their own near-death experiences that the beginning seemed pretty plausible. You know, I would cease breathing, and my spirit would come out of my body and hover near the ceiling and be able to look down and see the body that I had inhabited. So far, so good. But now what? I've always had a strong sense of the continuity of the spirit or the soul, or whatever you want to describe that thing that persists after your body, after you're done with your body. I summarize it by saying death is not the end. But I have no picture, no visual image of what does happen. So in my experiment, sitting there in my reading chair with my eyes closed, and I'm imagining it, and I just had to relax and go with what does it feel like, because I don't know what it looks like. What does it feel like? And the visual metaphor that worked for me, it's not universal, but it certainly, it made sense to me, was this old Hindu legend called Indra's net. There's a picture, sort of an artist's rendering of Indra's net in your bulletin. And the way this legend goes is that through all of time and space, there is a web, a net. And at every intersection of the things that form the web, at every intersection, there is a multifaceted jewel. And every jewel represents the soul essence of what becomes incarnate as a person. All the jewels reflect all the other jewels, and all the jewels are connected. And when you become incarnate, a piece of you kind of buds off from where your soul essence lives. It comes into a body and you live a life. And when you're done with your body, that soul essence goes back to where you came from. That was the thing for me. It felt like I'm going to be going back to a place, in what dimension, I have no idea, but back to some form that I have been before. It's my spot. It will be familiar. I will be expected. I will be welcomed with great joy. Look, she's back. I will be home, and I will be safe. Just like the song said. When I came back into present time, just sitting there in my reading chair looking out at the backyard, two things were immediately apparent. One was that the agitation was gone. It was like waking up after a fever has broken. You know, you've been sick, really sick, but now you realize, I'm past it. I feel weak. That was it. But you know you're going to be all right, and the world has color, and food sounds interesting, and you're going to be okay. The dark night has passed. The whole thing happened years ago, and the agitation has not returned. In its place is a sense of calm and peacefulness that has persisted. The second thing I noticed was a small, warm light inside near my heart. It didn't last more than a couple minutes, but it was definitely there, and it felt like what I had been reading about in other people's experiences of awakening or transcendent moments. Sometimes they get full body warmth, but I take a little light. It was mine. It made me smile with recognition. It's like, oh, that's what they meant. We use light as a metaphor for so many things in the world of spirituality, but at least in this case, it was literal. And over the years, as I have thought about this experience, it's even more remarkable to me because the whole thing came out of my own thoughts, my own imagination. But it felt like I went somewhere because I came back into my body from wherever I was. I had the sensation of coming back. I think we don't have a clue how powerful our minds are. And it's astonishing probably what we could do if we had the right kind of training. Now you might say, this is all just a story that I made up to comfort myself, like a child with a teddy bear or Dumbo with his magic feather. And my response would be, yeah, so? Teddy bears and magic feathers are around because they work. The stories that we make up from our own thoughts and imagination work to calm the fears that come from our own thoughts and our imagination. I mean, in many ways, that old traditional view of heaven as the streets are paved with gold and the angels are floating around playing harps all day, that's just somebody's teddy bear. That was comforting to somebody and it stuck, right? So I can't tell you what my spirit will actually encounter when I actually die. What I can tell you is that the result of this mental exercise has made me not afraid of it. Death truly is a wise teacher. So, the floor is yours. Come on, Roy. I know you have something to say.
Could you sing us the song?
Oh, the song. They did bring the lyrics. Let's see if I can fake the tune. No, it's a Rory Cooney song. Let's see if I can do this. Sweet vision, bless my eyes, land upon the western skies. Constant stars, I bid you rise over Safety Harbor. Home, home, at last be calmed. Far behind us screams the storm. Tattered canvas waves like arms, greeting Safety Harbor. From the windows of the tower where the beacon burns, faithful friends at every hour watch for my return. This is going to be hard. Yours the calm and peace I claim when I face the waves and rain. When the sea road calls my name out from Safety Harbor, through the fearsome foaming gale, when no spirit fills my sail, I shall see, though sight may fail, lights of Safety Harbor. Hearts haven, memory's shore, call me through the tempest roar, where the pilgrim sails no more, home to Safety Harbor. I can't even do it even now. Yikes. Well, you can understand why that, in that state, that song might have elicited a strong response. Somebody else come talk.
It also elicited your version of the Rumi chant that we like, I would say. Ours is another way home.
That's true. Yeah. I have something to say, but can I just say it from my seat?
No, say it up here because otherwise the
Oh, boy. Okay. Okay, well, I'm an introvert here.
You're a good company.
Okay, good. So, that was such a lovely reflection, Polly, and it really hit home for me. And it makes me think about, there's an Arthur Brooks book on happiness in the second half of life, where he quotes a study, or studies, of people who have had cancer and survived, that people who have had cancer and survived are happier than similarly situated people who have never had cancer. And as someone who's had cancer, I understand from the standpoint of, I've already made my peace with the fact that anything can happen any day. We are not in control. There's no guarantees. No one is guaranteed any certain number of years. And so I don't have time to worry about the little stuff, and it's all little, right? And I think a friend of mine said not all that long ago about a mutual friend who died at 73. And she said, oh, that was just way too young. And my response was, I hope I get to live that long, right? To me, every year that's older than I am is like, wow, what a gift. And that's I don't know, my response from having cancer 3.5 years ago, and I'm fine, I'm just totally fine, but is, wow, isn't it clear that every day is gift? Everything we have is gift.
And it makes a difference when you live your life that way, doesn't it? Yeah, it does.
Say anything. John, can I respond? John, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Thank you, Polly. I wanted to ask, do you think that in some way, in the preamble to this out-of-body experience, that you somehow, in some way, asked for it to happen? And if so, you must be thankful.
Nice question.
Kadji wants to speak.
Oh, how are we going to do that? You got him on your phone?
He's going to tell me. And I'll
Okay.
tell you.
The answer, Stephen, is my conscious mind did not ask for it, but I think there's a lot more going on that definitely did. Yeah.
Okay, Kadji.
Hello, John. And hello, everyone. It's an honor to be hearing your story. Absolute honor.
Can you hear that? No, okay, just a second. Speak.
Okay, speak. Holly,
He's trying.
Holly, it was an
Say it,
Holly,
say it quick.
Holly was
Okay,
to hear your story. And basically, what we are saying is an absolute gift to live in this very special moment.
okay, he's saying it's an absolute gift to live in this special moment, and that's all we had time for at this time.
Thank you, John. That's what I wanted to say. So. That's why I say that so much.
I don't know what I'm going to say. I think your experience is so profound that it leaves us with just holding this profundity, not just, but that's the truth of what we get. But I just want to appreciate that not just the sharing of the process, but sharing, both what you were dealing with and then how it's informed your life and the value of sharing the experience. We've all had experiences somewhat like this, and they're so precious. You only have 2 or 3 a lifetime, maybe 1, but they inform all the rest. It's a change of state that you never go back. And it was so interesting to me, like you were wondering, okay, so what's the feeling of this? And you came up with the image of Indra's web. Well, this is at a place where an image and a feeling become a unified thing. All of our distinctions just sort of break down because there's no subject and object. It's all one, which is a kind of change of state in itself. So I just appreciate you didn't just tell the story, you were transmitting the story. It's a transmission. I know for me it's important not just to remember something like I read stories and I can remember them, but to come from that place. That's how you really integrate it into your life. And if we integrate it into our lives, we're in connection, we're integrating it with everybody. We're all nodes on this web. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, we're all in Indra's web, and we're all precious jewels. And then when you look at them, what you see is a facet, and you see yourself reflected back in it. And I just want to acknowledge, I see Lisa Streebing here today, and I remember, I think we joined the church on the same day. Bruce Turner, and it was actually outside. It was a beautiful day. And we're towing these little kids behind us. Yeah. And thanks for lifting up these cracks in the shell where the light comes in. That's really, it can happen at any time and through any medium or any passage, like a song that comes up, or just those words. Well, what is it about that word? And just keep going into it. So thank you, Polly.
I had this pretty historic grandmother, and my dad says that when she was 40, a long time ago, she said, this is my last year to live. And then she turned 50. Well, this is going to be my last year. And she went all the way up till she couldn't talk anymore. And she lived to be 106. And so I kind of wonder what the connection she had with, I know she had a strong religious connection, but, did she have a near-death experience every 10 years or so, you know. So it was just, if anybody has anything to say about that.
You guys have probably read the Stephen Levine book about 1 Year to Live, or where he lives a year intentionally with his mind set on, this is my last year of life, because it makes everything so real and so present. And Mary's grandmother just invented that for herself. I mean, if she always thought, this is my last year, that's actually not a bad way to, it's not a bad mindset to be in, because it makes you really appreciate, yeah, where you are, what you're doing. Anybody else? Okay, well, let's stand and sing. I chose, Shall We Gather at the River? Here's yet another metaphor for crossing over, okay? 5